Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for Thor Love and Thunder, which came out last year in 2022. It's about 2 hours long and it's directed and I assume written by Taika Waititi, however you say his name. The guy who did Thor Ragnarok and happens to play Korg, the Rockman monster or whatever in these movies. Where do I even start with this? I guess since this is the first Thor review I've done on the channel, I'll talk briefly about the previous movies. I saw the OG original back in theaters, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it when I was a kid because it was the build-up to Avengers, which we had heard about. I think Incredible Hulk would come out before that, and then Iron Man obviously would come out before that as well. I don't remember if Iron Man 2 came out before or after Thor, but anyway, in that time frame, I thought the first Thor was cool, even though it had the same issues as something like the Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren. And taking place on Earth and stuff was not as cool as Asgard, but I liked it. I thought Hemsworth was good for what he had to do in that movie. And that was pre-making Thor a comedian, which was a better time, in my opinion. Even though I think Chris Hemsworth has a lot of comedic talent, for the most part. And then Thor The Dark World came out. This is post-Avengers, post-Iron Man 3, and I hated Iron Man 3 aside from Robert Downey Jr., obviously. And Thor The Dark World, for the longest time, I thought was going to be the worst. Not only Thor movie, but MCU movie. For the longest time, I considered it a reject. I think most people did. And then Thor Ragnarok came out, and it was an improvement over 2. In some ways, it's an improvement over 1, but I don't know if I consider it to be the best Thor film. I think if I sat down and really rewatched those movies at some point in the future, it might come out as my top Thor movie. It might not. I don't know. But Taika Waititi took us in a direction of making too much comedy in the MCU, I think. That was the beginning of the wannabe Joss Whedon legacy that the MCU currently holds to right now with the current shit like She-Hulk and this and whatever. And then Thor Love and Thunder, which is too long of a title. I refuse to type out that entire title when I talk with my friends on Discord or on Facebook Messenger. I call it Thor 4 because it's a piece of shit and it doesn't deserve my respect. Thor Love and Thunder, I had heard much about it since last year, and I was like, I'm not buying that. I'm not going to the theaters to see that shit, and I'm certainly not going to go pay $20 to get a DVD of something I'm probably not going to like after all the things I had heard about it. And here I am. I have Disney Plus, at least currently I do. Haven't seen much good on it, and I tried to go ahead and watch some of the MCU stuff after I watched the really surprising Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or Volume 3, just the other day that I talked about. I decided to go ahead and watch Thor 4, and fucking hell. Fucking hell, man. No one prepared me for what I was going to get out of this. I had heard a lot of bad things. I didn't know any spoilers. I try to avoid spoilers before I go into a movie to not corrupt myself, make myself biased going into a film. This is one of the ones where I don't even think knowing the spoilers would have helped the viewing experience. That 2 hours felt like 3 hours trying to sit through this shit. First and foremost, I guess I'll go to the plot. Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder, whatever you want to call this turd, basically is about Jane Foster has been diagnosed with cancer, and it was nice to see Natalie Portman come back, as well as the love of my life, Kat Dennings. Good God. One of the best comedic females of all time, in my personal opinion. Two Broke Girls is a masterpiece, and I'll stand by it. Anyway, so to see Natalie Portman come back as Jane Foster is nice, but like I said, she has cancer, and she eventually goes and finds the landmark where Thor's hammer originally got destroyed, and somehow she felt like the hammer was calling to her, and she did a little research. Apparently, she doesn't want to contact Thor after a big thing in their past. They cover a little bit, because we all wondered what happened to Jane after, like, movie 1 and movie 2. She just kind of vanished, and it was very strange, but they cover a little bit of that, supposedly, what happened to them. It's very melodramatic and fucking lame, if I'm being honest with you. They cover all of that. It's nonsensical. And she eventually gets her hands on Thor's broken up hammer, and now it reassembles and gives her the power of Thor, and she becomes what Jane Foster was once upon a time in the comics, which sucked ass, called the Mighty Thor. It's basically female Thor, and they make jokes about that in the film, and she gets offended about it, you know? And she crosses paths with Thor, Chris Hemsworth, at some point, and that's the plot for that part of the movie, I guess. The film does have a cold open focused on Christian Bale's character, who is the villain of the movie, named Gore the God Butcher, I think is what his name was, something like that. And I was having a lot of assumption that Christian Bale would do something great here. And dude, they wasted his ass so bad. They wasted him so poorly in this movie. And by the end of the movie, the turn of events that they went about to resolve the situation with him hunting down different gods and murdering them in a way kind of like in revenge for his daughter, when he prayed out and called out to whoever his god was, and the god didn't save his child or whatever. He is basically killing gods across the entire world. I don't know if it's multiverses, but just world, universe, whatever. And I thought that was an interesting concept that could have been really cool. And they did nothing with it. They did absolutely nothing with it. They wasted that. The revenge story, or kind of the protection, anger story, they really didn't do anything with, because eventually he encounters Thor in like the midst of a fight in a street on Earth. Most of this film has this issue of taking place here on Earth, and it is so boring for that. And then it goes off to another, like, new Asgard thing, and that's fucking boring, too. This movie sucks, dude. And I kept telling people that Taika Waititi, I did not have faith in. You can say whatever you want about Ragnarok, you can say about how much you loved it and whatever, and that's fine if you do, but Thor Love and Thunder are a great example, or is a great example, I guess, of what people like myself, and like even down to Geekvolution with Eric and Captain Logan, tried to warn people you were going to get more of because of things like Ragnarok succeeding and being beloved so much for so many weird reasons. It's a shame, but it's true. This is not the quality MCU used to have. And to be fair, I don't know what's worse, this or Thor the Dark World. Both are awful. Both are awful movies. But at least Thor the Dark World tries to take itself a little serious, have some decent stuff in there that was good, and it has Kat Dennings. And that's really all I gave a shit about. But this movie is so focused on this weird Thor and Thor thing, and then doing almost nothing with Gore, the God Butcher. It drops the ball so hard, man. Usually when I make my reviews, I try to go in when I'm thinking of like the rating I want to give a movie. I try to think about, was there anything in here I liked? Because usually that'll save it for some reason. It gives me something I can say, hey, I genuinely enjoyed this or that. And I'm going to be honest with you, there wasn't anything in this movie I liked. Not a single thing, which is not a good thing. There wasn't anything. Not a good soundtrack, because the soundtrack and this movie in general is obsessed with Guns N' Roses, and I fucking hate Guns N' Roses. Can't stand them. There's like one or two good songs they have, and they suck ass. They all sound the same. The lead singer can't sing. I fucking hate Guns N' Roses is what I'm saying. The writing in this film is a mess. The characters are a fucking mess. Chris Hemsworth is trying his best to do something with this movie. Natalie Portman, when she turns into the mighty Thor, the female Thor, she has these big-ass CGI arms, and this chick tried her best to go out in public and say that that was her real arms that she built up for this movie. Natalie Portman, you're a fucking liar. I'm sorry, but you're a fucking liar. The cancer scenes with how skinny you look there look more convincing than the fucking CGI arms. I'll never believe that as long as I live, and you're a fucking fool if you think anybody would believe that. But you don't get the right elements. This, just in general, being a Taika Waititi film, you think he would have utilized Kat Dennings more, which was shocking as hell that you didn't do that. But instead we get fucking Korg, the Rock Man, who no one likes. I don't know a single person who likes this fucking character. He just shows up everywhere now. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in the film quite a bit in the beginning. That's why I tell you that. I don't want to spoil too much for you. But at least they're here. They're bringing a solid performance. They're fun to watch, aside from the stupid joke about the screaming goats everybody was talking about. I had heard about that, and that's in here a shit ton. If you haven't seen the movie, you're going to hear about the goats thing a lot. That is in here so much that it makes you want to jump off a cliff yourself and do a dive bomb like Gamora. Or Black Widow, whoever you want to talk about. The film is shot in a way that looks like total shit. Everybody was talking about how bad the effects were for the CGI back in the day, and when this released, and they're 100% correct. It looks like total shit. It just, the CGI is so awful in this movie. You'll have scenes where they're clearly shooting on like a blue screen behind somebody, and where you're supposed to have these depths of mountains and fields and everything behind Chris Hemsworth at one scene early on in the film when he's introduced. You can't... All you see is a flat screen, basically. That's what it looks like. That's how bad the CGI is in this film. It's not finished. This should not have gotten the release it did, and it's bad, and it stands on that. People remember that about this movie. People hated this shit when it came out. And the only people that were defending this were shills of the MCU. That's it. Those were the only people defending this piece of shit movie. Every normie I talked to, every non-comic book reader who loved the MCU I talked to hated this. All of my friends who do love comics and do love the MCU and have since 2008 hated this shit. That should tell you everything you need to know about this movie. Everything you could possibly do wrong was done wrong in this film. Again, from the view of it, the cinematography of it, it looks like a TV show. And to save budget, so much of it is shot on like an Earth-like set with the new Asgard thing that looks like fucking Rhode Island. It's garbage. It's total crap, and it's garbage. And speaking of that, by the way, one more time, just like in Thor Ragnarok, if I have to see one more person reenact an event from Thor's life and involve Melissa McCarthy in that, yes, just like this time, I'm going to open fire, because I fucking hate it so much. This was garbage. I don't even know where to stand on some of the things I have to say here. Even down to the screaming goats CGI was awful. I just don't know how to even approach talking about this piece of shit movie. But everything in it was bad. Everything. And I genuinely tried to sit down last night when I finished the movie with my wife and tried to think about, was there anything in this movie that I enjoyed? Even mildly, that I could say anything good about at all. No, there's not. That's the conclusion I came to. No, just absolutely not. Thor 1 and Thor 3 are better than this, for sure. Thor the Dark World might be better than this. This might be the worst movie of the series, the whole franchise. Captain Marvel, a lot of people gave a lot of shit to, and I think it was kind of unfair. At least that movie had mild entertainment, despite Brie Larson being a fucking waste of time and being a horrible actress. But at least that was more entertaining than this or Thor the Dark World, but I genuinely think Dark World might be better than this. I don't know, but at some point I'm going to sit down and rewatch the MCU films in order and try to cover them that way, I guess. But, dude, this is one of those things that I don't know if this is the worst or Eternals. Eternals is just straight out boring, but at least it's beautifully shot sometimes. But it was fucking awful. You know, like genuinely horrible. Like they never even brought it up ever again in the MCU because of how bad Eternals was. That was a whole slap in the face at one point when I saw that earlier this year, I want to say, is when I saw it. But Thor the Dark World, or Thor Love and Thunder, Thor 4, whatever you want to call this turd, it's a sad shame to waste somebody like Chris Hemsworth, who got in some of the best shape of his life, I think, for this movie. The dude looks incredible in this film. And to save him for waste-ass jokes, like, I don't even know. You know, the dude deserves better. He's an incredible actor when it comes to his comedic timing and stuff. But this is a great example of carrying on the legacy of making Thor a joke. And it's not good. I don't like that at all. That's not respectful to the character, in my opinion, that Stan Lee created. I don't know. I'm really bothered with how awful this movie was. I've heard bad things about other stuff, like, of course, this weekend is the release of The Marvels. I've heard bad things. But Love and Thunder was a massive surprise, because I was expecting to at least enjoy it in some respect. And again, I usually have to look for something like that to make the kind of rating I'm going to give this justifiable. This has nothing. It's not even watchable. This is not even an average movie, not a mid-movie as the kids say, nothing like that. This is just straight out awful and bad. If I had to rate Thor Love and Thunder, or Thor 4, on a 5-star basis, I would give this a 1 out of 5 stars. I like nothing about it. That's how you get a 1 out of 5 from me. I have to like absolutely nothing about it. I could have the most low-budget piece of shit movie that has a good soundtrack, and if I appreciate that, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. I will. Mark my words. Stick around for the channel, you'll see that. But this was so awful and abysmal, I will never rewatch this shit again. You'd have to pay me $1 million to make me sit through this shit again. I would settle for 1,000, but still. Anyway, Thor 4 gets a 1 out of 5 stars from me. What a piece of shit. I never want to think about this or ever talk about it ever again. It's already slowly deleting itself from my brain over the last day since I woke up this morning. And thank God for that, because I have a lot of other things I'd rather think about. But yeah. So have you seen it? What do you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Love and Thunder down below. Let me know everything you have to say about it. Did you hate this as much as I did? It's horrible. It's horrible, dude. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving, and goodbye.